Good morning. I want to talk to you a little bit about how you might go about finding your life's work, your calling. You know, that vocation, passion, business that's for you purposeful, something you're passionate about, something you enjoy, your calling, perhaps what you're meant to do. I'll tell you, I've done this myself, and I did it the slow path. Like, it took me 2 decades to figure out what it was I was supposed to be doing for my life's work, my calling, my outer purpose. And it took me closer to 3 decades, if I'm honest, to execute on it. And so I like to tell this story because I don't want you taking that long, unless it's what's meant to be. So for me, I worked for a good company. I had a degree in safety and health, and I worked for a good company, Shell, oil and gas, and I made good money. And there was parts of that job that at times, multiple jobs throughout my safety career, there was parts of that job or those roles that I absolutely enjoyed, at times loved. That's simple. When I love something, it's paying well like it did at Shell, I'm around good people, stay the course. But there are other times where it was just mediocre and okay. All right, well, that's when I'm in a place like that, then I know it's probably not my deepest passion, my calling, my purpose, the best use of my skills, talents, interest. And then there are times where I was just flat out not happy, I was miserable. I was the wrong person for that job. I was a baseball player in the game of football. And so I say all this to say that life can often be mixed when it comes to vocation, job, business. There's parts of it that you're going to enjoy. There's parts of it that are going to be so-so. And there's parts of it that you're not going to like at all. That's just reality. But what I did know in all of this is I loved working directly with people. I loved helping people. And somewhere along that journey, I found out that I had the gift of discernment. In other words, a man or woman could start speaking, and if I'm deeply connected or even halfway connected with that man or woman, I pretty much can read between the lines and help them get to where they want to go or where they need to go. I call that coaching. Instead of giving that man or woman the answer, I just help them get to the answer themselves. I find it to be more insightful, more impactful, more perhaps even transformational for that man or woman. So finding my God-given gift, talent to serve the world was key in all of this for me. So ultimately my story is through the good, the bad, the okay, and the great, and not so great, I ended up leaving Shell, 17 years of Shell, 30 years in oil and gas energy pretty much, and made good money, made a good living. I was building wealth, but ultimately I ended up leaving because I had a greater calling, purpose, passion, mission for life, and it no longer included Shell. It was leadership coaching, essentially, and putting a group of men together to help these men level up and live their best lives, putting coaching into practice. And that was my story, my journey. And what I will tell you is not everybody needs to leave their day job. When I go on social media, TikTok, wherever I am, it seems to be all the trend that, you have to own your own business. And I do own my own business. I'm a fan of owning one's own business. I do think it's the better route. But for those who are in a day job or work for somebody else, call it a 9-to-5, although most people don't work 9-to-5, there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody is meant to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. There's a certain amount of risk and glory and hell that comes with owning your own business. And for those who know, you know. I will tell you, when I left Shell, going out on my own as a business owner, probably 10x harder. And I was building wealth at Shell. In fact, what I would tell you is if you've got a good job with a good company, and I get that nothing is safe, I get that pensions are going away, and I had a pension at Shell, by the way. I get that, the 401k is good, but it's also very much a trap, and it's taxed at whatever they decide. I get all that. But I'm going to tell you, as a general rule, you can build wealth at a company if you're at the right company, if you're making good money, if you're doing the basics, living a little bit below your means. What I find is myself, multiple people, if you want to hit that, 1 to 3 or 4 million mark, It's very doable for the most part, for most people working inside of a company, a corporation. And those numbers, of course, aren't exact. Maybe you save less, maybe you invest and save more. But that's, from what I've seen, that's doable, 1 to 4 million. If you are someone that wants much more than that, 10 million, 20 million, sky's the limit, that's most likely a business. And just know that a lot of businesses fail, and also know on the other side of that, it's easier than it's ever been to start a business. How are you going to market it? How are you going to sell it? What about QuickBooks and accounting and getting people, grown people, to do what they say they're going to do? What about follow-up? There's just a lot that goes into a business. So my point in all of this is it's okay to stay in your day job if that day job is where you're supposed to be. So as you're going through life and you're determining what is my calling, what is next, I want to give you some kind of general things to look at. Not even general, more specific things to look at, to consider, to contemplate, because this has helped me and this has helped a lot of men and women. Number 1, what did you want to do or be as a little boy or little girl? Maybe you were 7, 8, 9, or 10. What I find in this question is it doesn't always provide clarity on exactly what you want. If you were 7 and you wanted to be Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman if you're a girl, you're probably not going to be that. But what I do find is it's good to go back and get those creative juices flowing. What I do find is it's good to go back to that little boy, that little girl, because there's a lot of heart space in that, out of the head and into the heart. There's curiosity. There's lack of fear. All this shit builds up on us over time as we get older. And just for a moment, I want to push that aside, get out of the head, get into the heart. What did you want to be? What fired you up? What did you love? Was it BMX bikes? Was it gymnastics? Was it football? Was it some sport? What was it? I want that man or woman to go back there just for a time. There's plenty of time outside of that for practicality and strategic thinking and tactics, but just for a moment, perhaps in some nature, get into that space. Fun, curious, fearless. Get into that space. Here's what I think that's real good as far as clarity at doing. Helping you see what you don't want. So for example, when I was 7, I never dreamed about working in a cubicle inside of, a windowless office. I never dreamed about getting yelled at by a boss and feeling incompetent and less than. I never dreamed about asking some boss somewhere if I could have PTO a few weeks a year to spend time with my family to get a yes or no. I never dreamed about having my money locked up in a 401k, only to realize if I wanted it out, it was a 10% penalty plus taxes plus. I didn't dream about that stuff. So I think there's power in getting clarity on what you wanted to be, but especially what you didn't want to be or do when you were a little kid. And I know you didn't even think about that when you were a little kid, but trust me, it works. So give it a try. That's number 1. Number 2, what would you do if you had all the money in the world? If you hit the Powerball, the lottery tomorrow, and I know you don't even play if you're wise, I don't. But just for a moment, if you hit the Powerball, you had all the money, what would you do with your time? If you're anything like me, you're not going to just sit around and smoke and drink, kill yourself on bad habits and gluttony. You're just probably not. But what would you do? For me, it's clear, man. I would sit down, have a cup of coffee, and just pour into the man or the woman that's on the other side of me. I would listen to that man or woman like my life depends on it. I would be curious. I would be humble. I would be interested. I would help that man or woman. That's coaching. And it's a beautiful thing, and it energizes me, and I could do it all day, seemingly every day. What is that for you? Oftentimes, that what I call outer purpose, the doing, in this case, what you would do for a living, this is something that very much energizes you. It's not every part of every job every day. That's impossible. but it's something that gives you energy. Oftentimes, the doing ends in an ing, not always, but oftentimes. Coaching, problem solving, accounting, teaching, engineering. What would you do, ing or not, if you had all the money in the world? Think about that one. That's number 2. Number 3, what do others say that you are really good at? I find it's useful. In fact, I did this when I was in between jobs. At one point, I thought I was losing my job. I was losing my job with Shell, and that was a big deal to go through for my wife and I, because these are not jobs that are easily replaced. High-paying job. But with that said, I got on the phone and I called about 10 people, and I had journal in hand. I said, here's what I'm going through. I want to test a few jobs that I think I might be good at, interested in. I want to test these with you. What do you think? I can tell you, after talking to 10 people, when 10 out of 10 said no to a certain job, maybe but safe to another job, and absolutely I would be great at this other job option, either those 10 people are all wrong or they're onto something. So I recommend you asking others what you are good at. They're probably going to look at you or respond in some version like, well, why would you even ask me this? You know you're the best health coach out there. You know you're the best at holding space and giving counsel to any friend. You know you're the best teacher in the world, whatever it may be. Chances are men and women are already calling on you for advice in some area. Is it relationships? Is it fitness and health? Is it business? Making money? There is a lot of people with a lot of pain and a lot of transition that need the skills that you have. So consider that. Number 4, what flat out gives you energy? There are things that we do and people we do it with that flat out give us energy. Like me having coffee with that man or that woman and doing that, just coaching, listening all day long, if it's the right person. And then there are things, activities that we do, people we do it with, areas in which we do it, locations, types of work that just flat out rob us of energy. Get clear on that the best you can. Number 5, and these could be reordered, by the way. This could be number 1. What does success look like for you? And if you don't know exactly how to get to what does success look like, start with the inverse. What is not success? For example, I've worked with some C-suite guys, and they have a lot of success in sort of 1 or 2 categories. So they have success in the F of finances, vocation. They're C-suite, man. Of course they make great money. But I'm going to ask you, how's their relationships? How is their health? A lot of these guys, it's not a pretty picture. They're overweight, their triglycerides, their health markers are off, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these guys, they've been through a couple of divorces. Their kids don't talk to them. That's a sad thing. Are they successful? I would say not. To me, success is having enough health to do it. I want optimal health. But it's a vocation that is a platform for my mission, my talents, my God-given strengths, something that gives me energy and makes good money. But I also want and need to be healthy to live long and strong for my 3 boys. I also need to have intact and good relationships. So therefore, I probably don't want a job that's going to require 14-hour days. So I think defining success is key in all of this. What success looks like, aka what you do want, and maybe even more importantly, what you don't want. Number 6, if I'm at 6, you got to test the waters, man. You got to take some action. When I was young, and I'm 53 now, so I've been around a little bit, we had books called Choose Your Own Adventure. They were so cool, man. You read that first chapter and you get to a decision point. You could go kind of door A or door B, And whichever route you took, whichever door would lead to a different next door, but they were different paths. And they didn't lead to the same place necessarily. And then you get perhaps to the next chapter and you would have another door option, A or B. That's kind of like life. Life is a choose your own adventure. And I can tell you, when I look back at all the jobs I had, early on when I started construction, I had grown men come to me, freezing cold or brutal hot. It was out in the weather. And they'd say, they'd laugh at me, right? They were probably my age now. And I was young, in my 20s. Yep, you're going to buy a truck, you're going to buy a boat, you're going to get stuck out here. No, I'm not. But a lot of people get stuck and they just stay in that construction job. Fast forward, I ended up at UPS, the town I grew up in. That's considered a good job. And a lot of people do stay there and end up at good jobs. But it was hard work and it wasn't my calling. And thank God I'd left that as well to finish my degree and end up in corporate America, the oil and gas jobs. I don't regret any of that. But my point is, I had to walk through certain doors, and some of those doors to walk through, there's tons of jobs I'm not even mentioning here on this video, they sucked. And they were probably my biggest and best growth opportunities. I coach a friend of mine, and he had his own company for 20 years, his own business. He was absolutely miserable. And it was the people, I think, that pretty much wore him down, just the nature of the environment that he was in. And so ultimately he decided to sell that business, and he did. And I was working with him and coaching him this whole time. And he was promised a kind of a corporate job. And he took that job, and it ended up being terrible. The hours were longer, the pay was nothing like I think he had expected. It was brutal. Absolutely not his fit. And I watched him go through fear and struggles and financial challenges and misery for, I don't know, probably a year. And then from there, the next opportunity, the next choose your own adventure job came up. And this was working for a very small company. And this was sales and marketing. It was a brand new product. And so he stepped through that door and he took that job. Guess what? Even worse. He was trying to sell a product that no one even knew, much less wanted. It was a high-end product. He wasn't making many sales. He only had so many friends and family he could tap into. Any business, you got to get beyond that at some point. Wasn't crazy about his boss. The guy had some work to do, evidently. The bottom line is, he's deeper in debt. He's further in fear. His wife's is just an absolute saint and blessing, stuck by his side this whole time. It's hard. This is hard for a man. This is when a man loses his mojo, is when he doesn't have clarity and he's not making it in the business, the career world. I promise you, I've seen that a ton. And these men have to get their mojo back. And so the punchline to this story is, he has an insight, he has an aha. It's beautiful. I smile because I get to be part of this whole journey. And it's a success story. And he takes that third door. Now the reality is it's probably his 13th door if you look at his trajectory and growing up and all the jobs and businesses that he had. But he took that next step and he found it. And he's like a premium, I'll call it a handyman, but that's not even a good enough word. But he's building things. He's a master like carpenter. He's making more money than he's ever made. He loves what he does. It's not perfect. He has hard days. He has long days. He does travel some. He's just getting this thing going. But he is happy. He is complete. He is living. He's in his mission, his sweet spot, using his God-given gifts and talents in a trade that is rewarding him. He's not the cheapest, but he's one of the best. And it's a beautiful thing. He's got his mojo back. He's joyful. His mindset, his heart set are back where they need to be. But he had to go through a lot of, I'm going to call it hell. He had to go through pain to get to where he is. He had to go through many doors in order to get there. So what I want to leave you with is, you've got some work to do. It's usually not just a one and done when it comes to finding our calling in life, that perfect job or business, even though it does not exist. But don't settle. It is definitely okay and probably recommended for you to keep your day job, unless that day job is swept away from you. Keep your day job. Go try something else. Go try it on. Go build that side business, that side hustle. It's never been easier with today's platforms of social media and technology and things like Mighty Network and school to create communities. Go test it out. Find your niche. Find your purpose and your passion and your calling. Spend some time in nature. Journal. Talk with other people. Go through those things that I shared with you and through deep reflection, get you some insights and ahas. Know that things aren't going to be perfect, but you just got to take some action and go test these things out. I think the biggest thing I would tell you is I never found my perfect anything just by doing internet searches and hiding behind a computer. At the end of every success I had, especially career clarity, business vocation clarity, was insights and other people. Other people in the form of relationships, handshakes, opportunities. All success pretty much that I think I've had in my life has come via a relationship. So you just got to get out there and try things. Hope this helps. Good luck to you. Reach out to me if you need some help. Take care.